Hello everybody, my name is Anh Tuan from SIIT Thaprachan University. Now I would like to present some results from my thesis study. And the title for today's presentation is Microplastic Pollution in the Urban Zone of the Chao Phraya River. First, let's go for the literature review. So what is microplastics? Microplastics are defined as the plastic particle with the size from 1 to 500 micrometers. And the microplastics we can separate into primary and secondary. The primary microplastics are the plastics that were produced in micro size, and the secondary microplastics are the microplastics that are generated from the degradation of the last plastic by physical or chemical process. And the map here shows us the study of microplastics in freshwater environment. And we see from the map, microplastics have found everywhere in freshwater ecosystem. However, most of study have been conducted in European, North America, and East Asia. Few studies are conducted in Southeast Asia region, and according to a study by Zapek, in the top 10 countries have problem in manage the plastic waste, 5 countries belong to the Asians, and this shows a significant gap that needs to be filled in further study. With the above situation, this study aims to understand and fill the knowledge gap for the microplastic pollution in the Chao Phraya River, and the objective of this study are to determine the number and the concentration of microplastics in the surface water of the lower Chao Phraya River and Bangkok area, and to determine the characteristics, that means the morphology, the color, the polymer type, and the size of the microplastic for tracing their origins. Continually, let's move to the methodology part. Firstly, let's talk about the sampling. So from the map here, we can see this study area is located in the downtown of Bangkok in Thaprachan area, which is the largest city in Thailand. And the study site have the high population along with many tourist attractions located nearby. And the sample were collected in the dry season in February 18, 2019. And the water sample were collected by a volume video method with a mantle the mesh size of 300 micrometers. We can see from the figure here. And at its location, 3 positions across the river, that means in the river bank and in the middle position, were collected. And all the collected sample were stored in 1 liter glass container. And the sample were preserved at 4 degrees Celsius in the laboratory until further analysis. And here we go for the detail of the analysis procedure of water sample. So the microplastics firstly will separate by shift into different size range. And for the size bigger than 0.5 mm, that will bigger by Twitter on the prejudice. And then the total solids of the particle were analyzed. And then we go for the visual sorting by the optical microscope, and all the particles were checked by the FTIR for the polymer types. And for the second side range, the size smaller than 0.3 millimeter, it was cleaned by hydrogen peroxide because this side range they contain a lot of organisms and sediments, so we have to clean it. And then we go for density separations by the sodium iodide with 1.5 gram per cubic centimeter. So we can plot out the microplastic only on the top of the equipment. And then we filter on the membrane filter paper, and then go also for the total solids. And then we do the visual sorting by fluorescence microscope. And the last one, we also do the characteristics, but we use the micro FTIR because the size is very small. So we have to use the micro FTIR for analysis the polymer type. Now let's go for the result. The figure here shows us the number and the concentration of microplastics in the surface water. We can see that microplastics were found in all surface water samples collected from the Chao Phraya River, and the number of microplastics will range from 48 to 150 items per cubic meter. And in terms of the concentration, microplastics will range from 80 to 120 milligram per cubic meter. And we can see the number of and the concentration of microplastics not have the same trend. The highest concentration of microplastics is found at the middle position of the river, wherever the lowest concentration was detected at the bank wall. And the figure here shows us the percent distribution of each size range of microplastics found in the Chao River. And in general, we can see that microplastics with the size of 0.3 to 1 millimeter account for the higher proportions than other size range. And in comparison with other study, microplastics in this study have smaller size. According to one study, the microplastic size distribution is related to the sources of microplastic and reflect the degree of the weathering. Therefore, the higher degree of weathering in Thailand compared to other study area may result in a higher evidence of smaller size microplastics. And the figure here shows the related evidence of microplastics by morphology. So we can see that the morphology of the microplastics were predominant by the fragment and the fiber. The pellets and the film microplastics were lower than 5% in all water sample. And the morphology of microplastics can use to indicate their potential origins. According to a study by Bent, the fragment microplastics mainly come from the fragment plastics container, tableware, furniture, or toys. And the fiber can originate from domestic influence, breakdown of fishing nets and line, and the deposition of airborne master. And the pellets are typically used in the air blastings or the feedstock of the plastic production. And the film may come from the fragment of larger plastic wrapping on the back. Now, let's talk about the polymer type of microplastics. So we can see from the figure here, the polypropylene account for the highest percentage. The polystyrene and polyethylene were the second and the third evident polymer type. The copolymer and other were found in the smaller percentage. And the reason why we found many PP, PS, and PE in the Thaprachan River, this is because the high quality production of depolymer type in Thailand. And depolymer are commonly used to produce the consumer products such as the container, the bottle, the plastic pack, and the tableware. And the photo showing here is the different size range, different color, and different morphology of microplastics found in the Chao River. Lastly, let's talk about the potential impact of microplastics. A major factor contribute to the severe impact of microplastics is their small size. According to a study by Warwick and Kelly, the mammal body can absorb the microplastics with a size smaller than 150. So we can see here, if the size bigger than 150, they have no absorption to the mammal body. But if the size from 110 to 150 micrometers, it can go into the lymph system. And the one from 20 to 150 can go into the blood vein. And if the size smaller than 20 micrometers, the microplastic can access into the organs. And in the Chao River, we found the microplastics with the size from 53 to 150 micrometers. So this can cause the severe impact to the mammal body. In conclusion, to the best of our knowledge, this study was the first to report in detail the microplastics in the water of the Chao River and Bangkok. And as we see from the result, the microplastics were observed in all samples collected from the river, and the most microplastics were polypropylene with the dominant size of 0.3 to 1 millimeter, and the fragment and fiber were the majority morphology. And overall, this study highlights the microplastics contaminant in the Chao River and provided important data for further research in freshwater environment. Thank you for your attention.